steady there.
There's a website you can go to that has it, so we'll just do that.
Awesome.
All right. So hello everybody. This is Triple B podcast, Beauty Beast in the Beard. Today we have the pleasure of having Ryan McVeigh with us. And before we get started, I wanted to say something. He asked us for a little while ago to donate to a tell us again what the name of the
No, so we do a lot of fundraisers, and this, I think the one we're talking about was for Friends of Scales Reptile Rescue, which is the only 501c3 nonprofit licensed and insured reptile rescue in the state of Illinois and really in the Midwest. And it's run by Erica, my wife, who has been doing it for about 10 years. And she's taken in and rehomed over 2,500 reptiles that otherwise wouldn't have had anywhere to go. So it's pretty awesome. And now my garage is a rescue. And we have a facility and stuff. So we're always raising money, especially during COVID and stuff. With all the things happening, we haven't been able to go out to any events to fundraise or anything. So it's been a little bit more of a year where it's depended a little bit more on us personally to keep it going. But no, it's worth it. It's pretty awesome. So.
That's very awesome.
Yes. So today we have something to give away, and we'll keep talking about it as we go along. And of course, we're a day late and $1 short, but we have a Deadly Tarantula Girl face mask, and we want to auction it off. So we're going to cover the shipping, of course, but if we could get some bids on that today, that's going to go to that rescue. So keep that in mind, people, and we'll keep announcing it through the interview.
So I got really excited for a second and thought you made me a banana hammock, but now I'm a little disappointed that it's a mask.
Hey, if
but
you
it's cool.
Ryan, you can mask whatever you want with it.
That looks like it can hold some stuff. We're all right. Close enough.
So how you doing now these days?
I'm good, man. We got a lot of cool stuff going on and happening lately. So it was it's been a pretty awesome year so far, to be honest. I feel for everybody who's had, rough times in the last year. It's been kind of crazy world to live in, but it's been actually pretty awesome for me and my family. So we've had a lot of opportunities to just focus on a lot of stuff, including ourselves. And I'm having a good year with our reptiles. We're having an awesome year with the rescue. We're having an awesome year with the house. The kids are doing awesome. I mean, our health is better. Everything's going great. So I can't really complain.
I was going to say, we need to clarify. So we're actually not interviewing Ryan McVeigh. We're actually interviewing the new and improved Ryan McVeigh. Yes.
Yeah. I try and keep doing that.
Svelte.
Yeah. Thank you. I years ago got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and never really took care of it. And I have some friends who still don't. But I got with Erica. After meeting Erica, she kind of told me I probably shouldn't die, and I couldn't argue with that. So now every time I touch a cookie, all of my daughters come running into the room and go, "Daddy, don't eat that. We won't want you to die." So I can't eat anything ever. I chew on celery and chicken bones, and and then that helps you lose weight. So no, but it's been good. So it's been nice.
So you're hitting the gym pretty hard too.
Actually, I feel bad about this. I have not lifted. I think I bought a set of dumbbells, and I keep getting yelled at because somebody keeps tripping over them in our bedroom, and I haven't touched them in like 6 months. But no, really, all my weight loss and stuff has just been. I'm a super active person anyway because I'm always running around with the kids and hiking and herping and I don't stop moving. And now it's just diet changes. That's all it was really diet changes. So
nice.
Just lowering the carbs and sticking away from the candy. I stopped drinking, so I don't drink anymore. It helped an enormous amount. You're surprised how much it helps when you stop drinking a lot of beer. How quickly you lose a lot of weight really fast. So, but yeah, no, it's all been good.
That's awesome. And your beard is looking groomed. Let's talk about
thanks.
That. Beards are a big topic.
This was for me like I've never really had the chance to just grow a beard because I've always been in a really, not to say this in a bad way, I guess, but really professional, business. I've always been had to be in a corporate. That's a good way. I had to be in a very corporate environment. Or I was in before working, where I worked, I was an engineer, so I worked with a lot of older guys that tattoos and beards wasn't their clean cut and, that kind of stuff. So now that COVID happened and we were all working at home, I'm just see what it'd be like if I grew a beard. So it's kind of been, yeah. So I got this whole chin beard Amish guy thing going on. Erica loves it because I sort of look like a lawn gnome, and she's like super stoked about lawn gnomes. So I'm pretty sure that's what's getting me laid more often now, is that if I wear a little red hat and I get the little vest on,
right?
I look like a tiny little gnome.
That's it. I'm sending you a Romeo and Juliet DVD once I find one.
Oh, that's her jam, man. That's her and the kids. They all sit down and watch that, and then I apparently just sort of look like I belong with them. So, hey, whatever gets you there, man. Whatever gets me into that right spot at the end of the night, I'm doing it.
Definitely. Smart man.
So I actually have a question for you from the past. One, I've never heard your history, how you got into it. Two, I've never heard how you became... Do you know how you got into it?
Well, I guess let's hear it from the horse's mouth.
Two, I've never heard how you became so knowledgeable about so many different species.
Yeah, you're a genius.
And three, you're one of the few rare people I know that when you go out to hunt something, you seem to find it. How do you do that?
You don't use the Kaufman method, do you?
No, I actually know where stuff is. I don't have to bring people with me to tell me.
Love you, Dave. Love you, Dave.
I love Dave. I had to say it. No, I'm just giving him shit. I love Dave too. We were just down at Snake Road 3 weeks ago, so we were down with those videos so you put out. But no, man. All right. Well, number 3 for finding stuff. Honestly, I just spend an enormous amount of time out looking. Not really oddly enough, not nearly as much time in my own area as I do other places. But a lot of time I don't have time when I'm home, and we try and find time with the kids to go hiking and do something, but time's tight when I'm home. When I'm out traveling at shows, Friday after setup, it's just hang out if anybody's around. And if nobody's around, I'm stuck in a hotel by myself, so I jump in the car and I go out road cruising, or I go find. And most of the time I'm out, in the Southwest and the West Coast for those shows. That's where I want to go road cruise. So as much as it seems like I find everything. I don't always post how much I'm out there, so no, and I kind of have a lot of good contacts, so I get a lot of good advice on where to go. I go travel, I'll go out into a road in the middle of nowhere. When Forrest was still around, he used to tell everybody that it's like, if you want to go herping with Ryan, he'll show you stuff and you'll find stuff, but just be aware that when he says you're going out to find stuff, he doesn't say you're going out 2 hours away and you're not coming back until 3 a.m. So every time he's like, every time you want to find something, it's so goddamn far away. And I'm like, well, yeah, because everything cool doesn't live in the middle of San Diego. We got to go somewhere else. Right. So, but no, that's what I would do is even around like the Arlington show and stuff. I found a pocket of broadband copperheads that are an hour and a half north of Arlington. They look like Trans-Pecos. They're red. They're gorgeous. I've never seen any like that before, other than Trans-Pecos. To the point where I took Erica out there and she saw them. So this is a funny side story, but she saw a bunch of them. She's like, they're really pretty, they're cool. But that was the first time she'd ever seen copperheads in the wild. And then on our way back, I saw one on the road and pulled over. I thought it was a plains rat snake or something. We run back and she goes and she finds it and she's like, hey, what's wrong with this one? So I come down and it's a normal brown and tan copperhead. And I'm like, what do you mean what's wrong with it? She's like, is it old or sick? And I'm like, no. That's what they actually look like. That's a normal copperhead. And then it clicked in her head like, holy crap, the ones we saw were really cool. And then it kind of solidified that. But it was kind of funny because she's like, I just saw a whole bunch of copperheads. Is this one dying? I'm like, no, that's just a normal one, honey.
That's just an Uggo.
That's just a normal broadband brown and tan standard run-of-the-mill copperhead. He's outside of the range where they're pretty. Like, he lives in the wrong town. He needs to go to the other, But yeah, so like but that was just a lot of every night I'd go east, I'd go south, I'd go west, I'd go this way, and then I just sort of was trailing around some places and ran across a couple cool things and came back to that spot a few more times when I was there and started finding more stuff. And now I've got a couple other spots for like desert sagas and things like that I want to go find. So next couple times I'm out there, I'll be out that way and I'll probably find nothing for a couple weeks or a couple nights, but at some point I'll find something and I'll show it and everybody will think that I'm awesome. So that's what I go for.
When are you coming to play at our house?
I hope soon. I mean, COVID stuff's been kind of crazy, but we're both vaccinated and we're starting to look at the show season this year and traveling again. So I'm hoping I can get out of town a little bit more the rest of the year. I know we're signed up to do some shows, and Erica's going to be with me a lot, which will be awesome. So it'll be good to actually go out and everybody can meet the person that actually makes me cool in person. So yeah, it'll be kind of nice. It'll be nice to get out and get around. But no, your guys coming out by you guys is on the list. There's a ton of stuff by you guys we got to go find.
Definitely. We're gonna.
Plus, apparently, I have to come down there to help you guys find what you need to find.
Yeah, that'd be great. Get down here.
But yeah, no, I love going out and I love herping and I think that's something that everybody should experience no matter what. I think a lot of us, especially you guys and anybody that lives in like the Southwest, it's just you go outside and you do it. Like they're everywhere. Especially people I know that live like around El Paso. I'm like, you guys kick a rock and it hits 4 lizards. Shut up. Like I have to go hike for like 4 hours to flip a log to find a salamander this big. You guys just like trip and there's 8 lizards and a snake in your front yard.
I walk 5 minutes out of my front door and I can find prairies.
Yep. Yeah. So like here, I have a lot of American toads under my deck. Like I can definitely probably find you one of those, but that's
toads are sexy.
Oh, hey, no hate on toads. I love my toads, but at the same time, like, I'm not going to, hey, come out in the backyard. I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to show you the most common animal that lives in the entire continent. And I'm going to show you 87 of them in 4 minutes because they're under my deck and my daughters herd them into their little, apparently the deck is the toad barn. But, yeah, so there's a lot of them.
That's cool. The toad barn. I'm going to make a sign for you guys.
There you go. Let's put it on the deck. Well, if I wasn't tearing the deck out, that would be better, but I'm kind of in the middle of ripping it out. I know. I'm going to make them a new home. Don't worry. I'm going to make them
down the toad barn?
I'm going to make them the Toad Mahal, the Taj Mahal of toads somewhere else. Because we were talking about, we have all this brick and crap that's all around the house, and I don't know what to do with it. And I might just rent a little backhoe and make our own, kind of make a den, actually, and dig a giant hole in the backyard, fill it with brick, put a bunch of pipes and stuff down into it, and then bury it and just see if I can get any garters or anything to come use it as a hibernaculum.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what we can do. I'll be the one neighbor that tries to get all the snakes in our yard and just make everyone else super happy that there's now a giant snake den within 10 feet of their house.
All right. Hey,
that makes me happy.
Better than it being in their house if they don't like
snakes. Right. Exactly. 3 inches on the other side of the fence is still not your house.
Right.
But yeah, no. So I think everybody needs to go out and find native species and stuff. It's a big difference. Like turtles and tortoises are something that I like, but they've never been like that driving passion for me. But dude, you want to see 10 adult men drop to the ground and make baby noises faster than anything else? Box turtle walking through a prairie. Like, super cool. Coolest moment ever to see a wild box turtle just cruising through this huge prairie in the middle of nowhere. And versus like in a store or at home or anything like that. And it adds this totally different perspective to what these animals are and how they live and where they come from. And I think it gives people a lot more of an appreciation for like why the habitat is important and what the world around you really is. Because as you go down the street and you drive around town, you just see the buildings and you're thinking about shopping or whatever. But if I take you behind that building and show you this ditch and show you this group of snakes that lives there, or how this tiny chunk of remnant habitat still has something unique in it, it makes people care about that habitat staying like that and not turning into another shopping center, or why those little areas are so important. And that's really what I love about herping and getting out there, is it helps connect people with the wild animals and the habitats that they have and why that's important. Not just like, because that's what kills me. Loving reptiles doesn't have to be loving breeding reptiles in racks at home. That's it. There's such a huge range and between biology and zoology and veterinary and all the different people out there that love reptiles. It's so segregated, but we're all the same nuts about these animals.
Right.
And you don't have to love reptiles, but only love keeping and breeding this snake, or only love keeping and doing this. Like, I love keeping animals. I love going to zoos. I love seeing them in the wild. I love raising money for conservation. Anything that, like, if it has a reptile involved in it, I want to be part of it. It doesn't matter what it is. I love all aspects of them, and I think most of us do. It's just getting more people to open up to the idea that we can all love reptiles in all of these ways. You can love animals in captivity while still appreciating them in the wild and understanding what value they have in both places and how both need to be conserved and appreciated. It doesn't have to be either keep them in the wild or keep them inside. It doesn't have to be that. And I think that's a big place where the hobby misses, but that's kind of what I love, is finding all those different ways to enjoy them in different mindsets of how you think about how these animals are and what you love about them, and being able to see them from different, I guess, perspectives.
Right. I think there's a huge disconnect between kind of the new generation of hobbyists and animals in their habitat. And so I
absolutely.
think it's definitely cool to show animals in the wild, and basically most people have no idea what animals live around them. And so 100%. I think that's very, very neat to teach people, and just for people to learn to appreciate it, even if they're not necessarily reptile enthusiasts. Who doesn't like to see a turtle,
Absolutely.
I mean, I personally like even finding like spiders and millipedes and, anything I can find pretty much. If I see a jumping spider, like on the outside of my house, I'm like, oh, he's so cute.
Yep.
I love him. And, I might take a picture of him, and I don't know. It's just neat.
Yeah, my girls are like that. You kill a bug in our house and you are going to get ninja'd by 3 little crazy women who will just destroy you. Like, that's not a thing. You pick it up carefully and you walk it outside nicely, or you get roundhoused by Adelise. Like, and she's little, so it's kind of a spinning spider monkey thing, and it's scary. But no, I agree, and I think that's really the thing, is like getting people to appreciate more than just the animal in a box. And again, that box could be a zoo exhibit, but either way, whatever it's in, there's more to the world than that, and there's more to them. That's actually something me and Erica have been talking about with our collection of animals and the animals we keep when we're working on breeding. We really have all of the species that we've ever dreamt of working with. We really have everything that we want. We're not looking to expand anymore. Plus, I don't have any room, and I need a bigger house or a second house or a third one. But actually, well, one would be good. But I really, we decided to take all the funds and stuff that we would be putting towards these animals, and we're looking at traveling in the next couple of years and actually going to Lesser Sunda and Roddy Island and outside of Timor and all those places where a lot of the species we work with come from. And I literally want to go to the Solomon Islands to see Varana spinulosus, our spiny neck monitors. I just want to go there. I want to go out into the woods or where they're at. I want to sit down at the base of a tree with a notebook and a camera, and I just want to sit there from sun up to sundown for like 3 days, just like I do when I'm hunting. But I just want to watch for them. I just want to watch them, and I want to be invisible, and I want to watch them and see how they interact with their habitat. Are they spending more time, up in the trees or on the ground? If I walk around and flip around logs and dig some crap up, am I finding them in burrows? Like, how are they utilizing that habitat? And that's all I want to do for a week out there, is just follow these monitors and see what I can learn about them and take measurements in their habitat, and even down to the fact of like, what does the dirt actually look like there? Is it more sandy? Is it more, what's the humidity of the dirt? Is it wet and mushy, or is it well drained? Or just every little tiny piece of knowledge I can get from where they're living, so that I can try and find ways to mimic that better at home. I think a lot of the species, especially the Indonesian species, whether it's monitors or snakes or anything, they're so commonly imported that not many people take the time to breed them. And then the other thing too is, the people that do, it's not easy to do. So it takes an enormous amount of work to do it. But I think it's just because we're trying to treat them like all other species from around the world. All pythons pretty much breed the same, except Savu pythons. They're totally different sequence for breeding, which biologically almost doesn't even make sense on why. It does, but it doesn't. So me and Eric are looking at even potentially having growing out some extra Savus so that we can do some studies with them later on why their reproductive tract works differently, or why their cycling works differently, and see what that key is, because there may be keys to not only Savus, but like Boland's pythons and Halmahera scrubs and all those other species from the South Pacific that they just don't, you don't cycle them with weather. You don't cycle them like you do other animals. They don't go into start developing follicles like other species do. Savu pythons, when they ovulate, if you pull the male, she'll reabsorb. And when pythons ovulate, that's when you pull the male, because your female's good, she's ready to go. You're bred, they're good to go. You pull the male so that she can leave her alone and she can develop eggs and do her thing. If you do that with the savus, she'll reabsorb them and she won't. And I've learned that the hard way over 11 years of trying and talking to other people that happens all the time. I've gotten breeding almost every year. I've just never gotten them to lay eggs until this year. So, yeah. So we actually,
exciting.
it was a huge moment. It was just two days ago. I got my first clutch of eggs.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that female's 15 years old. That's her first clutch. That's the first time I got the male as a baby in 2007. That was one of my first like exotic snake species I ever kept. Like up through college and high school and stuff, I kept like garter snakes and stuff that I caught and whatever, but not until like college was really opened up to how big the exotic hobby was. And yeah, that was one of the first species I kept. So
okay, break down the incubation for us, substrate, incubation chamber, temperatures, humidity.
Oh, so for savus, it's simple. Once you get the eggs, it's easy from there. It's just getting them that's nearly impossible. Now it's, I do a perlite turfus mixture for the substrate, and then just drop the eggs in, keep a nice humidity, put them at 88, and wait 60 days or 55 days. So. No, I never cover them. I go halfway and kind of sink them in a little bit. But no, I like.
Do you use a lid?
Yep, I use a lid. I put a couple air holes in it, small ones, and then I just watch the humidity. The one thing I really love, so turfus. Have you guys heard of turfus? Mm-mm. So it's also called super hatch. I think it's ground up terracotta pots. But for anybody that wants, I'm sorry for all of my friends in the industry that sell this stuff in some kind of bag really expensively, but it's called turfus, and you get it at places that do usually like at farm stores or sports stores. It's used on baseball diamonds to hold moisture in the dirt of the baseball diamond, so they spread it and mix it with the dirt on the baseball diamond so that it doesn't dry up and get dusty when they're running. But no, you can buy a 50-pound bag is like $12. So I've had the same bag for like 10 years, and I'm now slowly getting to the bottom of it. So, instead of like $20 for a bag this big.
Right.
So, but that's what I use. And the nice thing about it is when it's wet, it's dark. And then as it gets dry, it lightens up. So I can see the humidity level when I just look at it, which is nice. So I can tell if it's getting a little dry, I need to put a little moisture in there or not. I don't actually have to have a humidity gauge in. I can just look at the substrate and tell. So that's kind of nice.
Cool.
So why do you use that if you're using perlite? What is the advantage to that?
I like that for the visual, that I can just look at it and it holds humidity really well. I like perlite because it holds humidity a little differently, and because on a microscopic structure, it's very sharp angled little structures, which keeps the eggs from ever really contacting the water. They're kind of held on all these little points of the perlite up in the air, and then the turfus and stuff that's in there helps continue to maintain really good humidity. So I kind of get the best of all worlds. I've done a lot of different substrates. I've done vermiculite. I didn't like vermiculite because with eggs, it seems to pack down over time, and it can kind of get a little stuck to them and swamp them a little bit. I didn't like that. Plus, in a past life, I was a certified asbestos inspector. Vermiculite, when it's mined, is mined directly next to
asbestos.
Yeah, asbestos. It's in the same, like anytime vermiculite's used as an insulation in buildings. So whenever we find it, and whenever I'd find it, I knew it had asbestos in it every single time. So part of that kind of got me thinking like, okay, do I really want to use vermiculite if I know for a fact there's particles of asbestos in it? I mean, is it going to hurt the animals? Probably not. It's such a small amount. It's not like it's going to make a big difference, but it's just one more thing to think about. And then I've used moss, I've used dirt, I've used all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with it, and whatever works for people. But I've found over time that this kind of mixture of perlite and turfus works really, really well.
Okay, I have to stop you right there. I'm having a wonderful time. This calls for coffee. I'll be right back. You keep going.
Real quick before you go,
What?
make the announcement about the auction?
Oh, okay. So, Ryan and Erica run this amazing rescue. We are auctioning off this DTG mask. If you want to wear it as a banana hammock, you may. Dudes or chicks,
or
I guess.
partial top of a swimsuit.
Yeah, wherever you want to wear it, you may. It can be a earmuff, one earmuff. Anyway, so be dropping your bids in the super chat, and anybody who leaves the super chat, that money's going to go to the rescue today too. So this is like so much fun. I need coffee. So gentlemen, take it away. I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay, so that was question 3 rounded into 17 other things, which I think is going to kind of be a theme. But so we'll go back to what was 2. 2 was
you have an extensive knowledge of many different species. Like you're the one that taught me about Candino, which I had no idea. How did you amass all this? Was it out of books or just talking to people or
everything? You know what? I'll tell you, if you want to learn the most you possibly can and just be the most you can about reptiles, my number one advice is shut up. Shut your mouth and open your ears. Be around people who have knowledge and just shut up and absorb it. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but I get a lot of people who I see 2015, we hosted the Herp Society hosted the Midwest Herp Symposium, and I got Dave Barker to be our keynote, which was the coolest night of my life, was drinking and eating pizza with Dave Barker, and hearing stories about him having to smack a 18-foot wild-caught retic in the face with a wiffle ball bat. So best night ever. But while we were, at the event, and he's talking and his breaks, and of course, all the people want to come talk to Dave because he's amazing. And I'm sitting there, and I just kind of sat in the back and let him talk, and I'm sitting in the back of the crowd kind of and just listening. And so many people were so excited to hear from him, but also, and I think this is a natural thing for everyone. They wanted to add their story to it, and well, I had something happen like that. It was like this, and connect with that person who's speaking and have a conversation. And I get that. But when you're talking to somebody like that, every freaking second that he opens his mouth is value and gold. And there's so much knowledge there that he can't even tell you. If you sat down from 6 a.m. till midnight, he couldn't get all of his knowledge out. He could give you a sliver. So every second you have around somebody like that is super valuable to learning and diversifying what your views on how things are done, and especially learning the history of the hobby and how things used to be and how they've come up to now, and getting appreciation for that. And there's just so much you can learn, but you have to just let them talk. So ask a question. Absolutely ask a question. Don't sit there like a weird mute and just stare at me and not ask anything, and it'll get weird. Talk, but ask a question and then just let the person answer and relax and add something here and there, like a little bit of, oh, what about this? Or, hey, have you thought about this? Or have you dealt with this? You can lead that conversation and be a part of it, but let that person talk and dump their knowledge. That's a lot of where I learned. And then the majority of it actually was just old forums and stuff, going through and trying to find information on animals. What really propelled me into diving hardcore into reptiles, I've always loved them, so I've always grabbed books. I moved around a lot as a kid, so every new school I went to every year, I checked out all the reptile books. But then when I started keeping and breeding, I really got into geckos, and I really got into stuff that didn't have a good common name, like a lot of the Nephris, the knobtails, and even Dune geckos out of Stendodactylus. These little tiny, super cool little geckos. They chirp like baby birds, which is super cool. They're called Egyptian dune geckos or Israeli dune geckos or dune geckos. But there's 10 species of Stendodactylus, and they're all called dune geckos. So I had 3 different price lists I ordered some from, and different species came every single time. And it was all under the same common name. So it got to a point where I'm like, okay, I needed to learn Latin names. And I kind of had because of that. So I had to call them and be like, is this Stendodactylus doriae or petri or Stendodactylus, or can you send me pictures? Because I need to key this out because I can't breed 2 different species. So it became a lot more, I had to dig in a lot more into the different species and understanding the differences and learning Latin names and things like that. And that kind of really propelled me. And then the other part was just, I love it. I love reptiles. Every day I want to learn something more. I buy more books than anything else now. And every day a new book comes, and Erica yells at me for buying more books, but she doesn't mind that much because she loves them too. And honestly, she gives me crap because I don't read a ton. Like she reads like a book a day. It's ridiculous. And I read I think I finished one book since 5th grade. Like cover to cover. I think the only book I finished since like 6th grade is Dave Barker's The Invisible Ark. I think that's the only book I've read cover to cover.
If you're gonna read one book in the universe,
yeah, that's it. Yeah, and then a lot of other books, I start them and then I get busy and I stop reading. And then I get busy and then they get put back on the shelf and then I forget they're there and then that's it. So I've read half of most of my books, but never cover to cover. But I like having them there because I like having that reference. So, that's the biggest thing I think that also kind of spiked my knowledge base and the broadness of it is I get excited about every new thing I see, period. Like I find a new gecko, somebody posts a picture and I'm like, that's super cool. I want to keep that. Well, where's that even come from? How would I even keep that? And even if it's like this dude in the Czech Republic hatched the first one of these ever things and I'm not going to get it, but I'm interested in it and I think it's cool. So I'll just dive in and start hitting Google. And by the way, I don't go to Google. I go to Google Scholar and I type in the Latin name and then I start looking for papers on that animal. And sometimes you can find like the original papers from when they were described. Yeah. Sometimes you can find dietary things.
Like scientific research articles, not Joe Blow on Facebook.
Exactly. And one thing, there's some cool stuff that you'll find that not even keepers on Facebook or in the world would even know. Colotus, these little tree lizards from Sri Lanka and stuff. Everybody's seen Colotus, little green lizards with a neon red head, and they were super cool. There was another species, Colotus nigrolabris, that came in, and I want to say only 2 pairs ever came in, and I snagged one of them. And we had him in the lab at Zilla, and there's no information on these guys. So I started digging in on Google Scholar, and what was really cool is I found an article about how Colotus, the different species of Colotus, find nesting sites and how they dig their nesting sites, what they like to find to nest, which was perfect because the female came in gravid and I was freaking out. I didn't know what to set up for. You can't always just set up a lay box and they use it. Different species lay in different ways. So I found so we were able to actually in that habitat create 3 or 4 different spots that should have suited what she wanted based on that research. And we were able to get her to lay. Unfortunately, she laid some there and then dumped the rest in the water and it was all over the place. And she was stressed wild caught import. So we lost the eggs, but it was cool to find that information and at least have that much better of an opportunity to be successful with those. So you can find some crazy stuff. Or if anybody ever wants to get on a really, really scary long road tunnel, look up the actual diet of bearded dragons in the wild and then post that on the internet because I did that. So many people will love to hear that everything they've ever told everybody and they've copied and pasted for the last 30 years is wrong. Yeah.
So educate us. What do they really eat?
Well, so that actually came up because somebody had messaged me and they're like, hey, I'm writing a bearded dragon care sheet. Would you mind looking it over? Let me know if there's anything else you would add. And typical with bearded dragon care sheets, as babies, they eat 80%, roughly, but 80% vegetation, or 80% insects and 20% vegetation. And as adults, it switches. And I asked her, I'm like, where on the planet do you hit sexual maturity and the whole world, like a Disney movie, changes into a lush rainforest where you can eat all this vegetation? That doesn't happen. So why would their diet change? What about them in the wild changes that allows their diet to change so drastically? And if you look at where they're from, nothing does. So I started digging into why that was a thing, and it has nothing to do with their wild diet or caring for bearded. It has to do with lazy husbandry in the United States, to be totally honest. It has to do with the fact that when I want to say it was 3 or 6 bearded dragons came in the late 80s from Germany. And all bearded dragons in the world came from 6 or 8. So everybody who's looking for genetics and lines and things, you're all wasting your time. Same thing for Cresties. They all came from 40. So they're all inbred. Stop asking. But for beardies, so they got brought in, and a bunch of the babies, like, they were dying. They weren't living very long because people were feeding them a ton of fatty foods, and they were getting fatty liver, and they were all getting, because they weren't being kept hot enough, and there's a lot of husbandry issues that were happening. Well, one of the problems was nutrition, because they were being fed superworms and mealworms, because it's way easier to breed mealworms and superworms and just dump them in a bowl and walk away. And what that was doing was causing them all to die of obesity and fatty liver. So instead of try in an attempt to get keepers to treat their bearded dragon properly and feed them properly and not feed them like a dog, because reptiles aren't like mammals. They don't eat like that. You have to watch their body and watch their weight and understand how they hold weight and nutrition and things like that if you want to feed them properly. It's more sporadic. And people want routine. They want a dog. I put a bowl in every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So veterinarians couldn't get people to change and understand that reptiles aren't like that. So instead, they started telling people, no, you need to feed them more veggies. They eat more veggies. They need more lettuces and greens and things like that. Not because they need it, but because it's low calories. And this is you're basically, they forced us to put bearded dragons on a diet because nobody would take the time to actually learn how to feed them properly. So that's why. That's why the wild diet of a bearded dragon is like 60% termites, 20% vegetation, and the other 20% is a mixture of vertebrates and other invertebrates. So small lizards, eggs, tarantulas, other bugs and things like that. 80% of their whole diet is termites, insects, and proteins. But the proteins that they're eating are all lean. So they're eating a lot of lizards and other things like that, and little bugs. They're lean proteins. And they're not eating a lot of larval insects, which are super high in fats, and they usually have a reversed calcium phosphorus ratio. And so they're not eating a lot of that stuff. So that's why they do better. But we can't do that in captivity, because getting somebody to treat their animal like it's a reptile, not a puppy, is impossible. So we just told people to feed them more salad.
So Robert Mailloux did not sneak in. Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Robert Mailloux did not sneak in those red bearded dragons back in the 90s.
Honestly, he probably snuck some in. There's more than just those original ones that came in. I'm positive. I know plenty of Australian stuff that got here through channels that probably weren't the best. There's a lot of that, but still, even with this stuff that has been smuggled out of the country, or things that have come to the United States or whatever usually through Europe, because if anything from Australia comes from Europe, it also didn't come legally to Europe ever. But unfortunately, that's just kind of how it goes with those. Even then, even with all of this, you're still talking a tiny population of starting animals. Like, the genetic diversity is non-existent in a lot of reptiles we keep. Unfortunately, it's a lot of them, especially a lot of the New Caledonian stuff, which is funny because everybody wants lineage. And I'm like, guys, if you really had lineage for all the way back to the first imports, all of your animals are related to probably the same mom or dad. You just don't know it.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, even Chihuahua. Only 40 Chihuahua have ever come out of New Caledonia ever. And on top of it, originally, they weren't even, there's two different species. There's Chihuahua and Jalu, and they were never differentiated until after all those animals came in. So they originally came in. So most of them are hybrids, too. They're hybrids between Pine Island and mainland, because they didn't separate those originally. And then they also didn't separate out the northerns, which are the Jalu. So they could be a hybrid of two species and a hybrid of two localities that also might be two different species that haven't been speciated yet. So every Chihuahua you have could be a mutt of three species, and you have no clue which, unless you have F1 or F2s from recent imports.
Right.
So
go ahead. You're
a Leachianus breeder, correct?
Yeah.
Do you care? So when you're pairing yours up, I hear there's a lot of they don't always get along, the pairs and things like that. So what do you do? Do you care about what locale you got compared to the other ones, or do you just try to find compatible pairs?
So I haven't had a pair that I haven't been able to pair together. I haven't had two that I haven't been able to pair yet. But I do it a little differently. What I end up doing is I keep their cages next to each other when they're growing up. I call them leaky anus, not leachianus, because all they do is crap everywhere. They scent mark their territory. So you clean the cage, and then they walk across the glass and just go as they go across it. As you shut the doors, it's just that. Like, I can show you every leachy cage I have in the house, but you can't see through the glass. And I don't wash it anymore because it's a waste of time. Like, but that's what they do. But anyway, so like with that, they create a lot of pheromones and smell. So if I have both of them next to each other, it doesn't matter if they're in different cages and the doors are shut, whatever. They smell each other. And then once they hit sexual maturity and I'm ready to pair them, every week that I go in and I feed and I'm moving stuff around, I'll swap stuff from one cage to the other. So they start getting used to the smell of another one in their territory. And then once I keep doing that, and they're all the decor makes rounds. Like, it just goes around every week. And after like a month or two of doing that, I'll put them together, and I've never had a problem.
Okay. But do you care if you have an Isle of Pines versus a lychee?
I try to keep them together. It's really funny. Lychees are really weird. Back 10 years ago, like, a cross was garbage. It was nobody wanted it. I bought one of my females is a GTB Nuana hybrid or cross, and I think I paid $200 for her. Like, it was a throwaway animal then. And then I stopped paying attention to, like, it was years I didn't pay attention to the hobby and the market, because most of my animals honestly, I could never run this as a business because I give most of them away to like friends and kids and stuff like that. But we just kind of do it for fun. And I stopped. Well, then I got to a point where I'm like, I don't have anybody that really wants one. I'm going to sell them. And I went to sell pairs from that female, which is she's like I said, she's a GTB Nuana 50-50 cross. And then the male's a Nuana. So I'm creating 75-25 babies. And I'm like, well, I wonder how much they're worth. I don't even know what to put them at, like $200-$300. And then I looked, and people are charging like $800 for mixed locality stuff. And now it doesn't even matter. And some people are really locality specific, and some people aren't. I thought I was just producing like mutts that nobody cared about. Apparently they do now, and they make really gorgeous babies. Like all of the babies from that clutch look better than either of the parents, which is annoying. And then we also have a pair of Bros.
Breed babies.
I know they get the best of both of their parents, and all of them grow up to look amazing. And I'm like, well, I never held any of you back because I just kind of gave them away, but now we kind of want to because you all look way cooler than mom and dad. But yeah, and then we have a pair of Bros that we, and others. We keep some of them together as best as we can. But again, that one that I have a cross of, apparently nobody cares anymore. So I guess it really depends. I'd like to keep them pretty specific. Like, I like to keep locality specific just because I think that there's some value to keeping the phenotype of that locality around. And too many people get too quick to just mix everything together, and then you don't know what you have anymore. And for the pet industry, the thing is, the difference for me and a lot of people that argue that is, I just think it's neat to have that phenotype, and I think it's conservation, but it's not conservation of the animals in the wild. By the way, nothing that we do in captivity and in the pet industry affects the wild at all. So conservation through captive propagation is a lie. It's not a real thing. Zero to do with in situ conservation. It has to do with the hobby, and it never will. However, it is conserving the diversity of animals that are available to the hobby in the United States and in the world. So by keeping those localities pure, there is an aspect to that where over time, 10, 20, 30 years from now, if everybody mixes everything, we won't ever have any pure localities, and we may not be able to get them anymore. And if that animal goes extinct, or that island gets rats on it that kills them off, that locality off, then we're just left with it's mixed in with a lot of this other stuff. We don't have anything pure. To some people that doesn't matter. They're just pets. Other people it does. The idea that we'd ever be able to take those animals and repopulate that island is zero. It's because we don't keep good enough records to not know that every animal we're putting back there is brother and sister and has other localities. Maybe it's 10% of a different locality. We don't have any proof of any of that. We don't track records as hobbyists very well. And that's why it'll never happen. But it does conserve the species and diversity that we have within the hobby that's available. So I see the value in it. But I mean, to me, it's really up to what people want to do. As long as there's two camps of people, one is always holding on to, locality specific, and the other one's, breeding for colors, then you kind of get the best of both worlds depending on where you fall.
So I hear that you and Earl are going to be cornering the red-eye crocodile.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I've set up a lot of people breeding colonies of red-eyed croc skinks. I really should just actually do that myself. Never mind. I just got told no. We don't have enough space. And actually, that's what it is. I love red-eyed croc skinks. They're super underrated. They're incredibly overstated on how hard they are to keep. They're super easy to keep and breed. You just
we're your next project. To send them all to us, and we'll be your.
Well, I do have some friends that import them, so I get them from the importer buddies because they're hardy and wild caught ones. They're all wild caught, but they're hardy when they come in, which is nice. They don't need to be treated delicately. They're easy to deal with. You just set them up right and leave them alone, and they're totally cool. So no, if you guys want to start doing them, I'll set you up and let you know how. It's not hard. I mean, racks of 15-gallon tanks, and you can be cranking out a baby every month. That's the only thing with them, and why people don't jump on them is they have one egg at a time, and they only lay one egg every 30-ish to 45 days. So it's not a huge production. You need 20 tanks of pairs to have good production. And that's why it's not something people jump on. But they're super rewarding. They're cool. They're maternal. So the adult and paternal, the parents take care of the baby. You don't even have to like take the egg out. She'll bite the crap out of you if you try and take it. Like, she guards it. And man, she's not joking either. Like, I've been charged by a lizard this big. Like puffed up, like, I will take you down. So, like, you got to kind of, hey, look at my finger over here. Let me snag that quick. But actually, we ended up, after a while, just letting them do it. Just letting them incubate them and protect them. And then when the baby hatches, they'll actually kill crickets and bring them to the baby. And, like, it's super, super cool. So, yeah, even Earl, like, they leave the babies in for, like, 3 months until you start to see them away from mom and dad and kind of exploring out on their own. And then you're safe to take them and move them into their own enclosure and kind of be able to watch them more and make sure they're specifically eating and doing well on their own. And then you can, rehome them. But they're easy. Like, the parents do all the work. You don't have to do anything.
Okay, we're doing it.
So are you keeping any? You're not keeping any?
No, I had some at the lab. I've kept them before. I've had good success with them. I love them. They always kind of I have a soft spot for red-eyed croc skinks and always will. But just space-wise, I am in, like, me and Erica's house it's her childhood home, and it's awesome. I love it. And with 3 girls and her and all the animals in the rescue, we're sort of outgrowing the space we have. So we're down to a point where, like, every 10-gallon tank is what are we getting rid of to put this 10-gallon tank here? So it's a very one in, one out situation now. So there's not too much happening. Everything's pretty stagnant because every single time I want something new, she's like, well, cool. What are you getting rid of to fit that? And then I'm like, well, one of the kids. And that's not the right answer. That's never the right answer, just in case you're curious.
Well,
tried that one a few times. It doesn't work.
Yeah, right?
You've got, I mean, when you have 3 children.
Right, I feel like one of them's expendable, but she says that we gotta keep them around until we're camping. We're gonna need them when we're camping and there's a bear. And I'm like, well, that's true. One of them's got a trip.
That is true.
When we told them that, we're like, look, we love you all, but if there's a bear, one of you is getting tripped. And they're like, which one? And I'm like, whichever one's the most naughty that day, so just don't be naughty. Like, you never know what day that day is going to be, so just don't be that kid that day.
Or ever.
Brian. You may hear me getting yelled at from the background.
Oh, come on.
All right, so she says she's heard it, but maybe I haven't. I just forgotten. Your childhood, you said you've always been into reptiles. Tell us about that process.
So it's super, super unique. I don't think very many other people had the same entry into reptiles that I did. I liked dinosaurs. Then I found a snake. And I thought they were like dinosaurs. And then I liked reptiles. I know you've never heard that before, and no one else has that exact same story almost to the T. But
okay, I have heard that.
Yeah. So, but no, that's kind of how it was. And I don't ever remember not liking reptiles. I remember my stepdad as a kid would bring me home, like, he was a roofer, so he'd bring home like tree frogs, and he brought home like a dead bat once, and we were like looking at it and talking about biology and how bats work, and so that was kind of cool. And like stick bugs, and I always was catching like salamanders. I had my first salamanders when I was like 5. They were named like Spots and Dots. They were little tiger salamanders. I did my 5th grade how to presentation on how to feed my salamanders worms and brought them into school and stuff. And, and then in 6th grade, I got kicked out of science class and ever going on outings again because I filled my backpack with garter snakes and brought it and put it in my locker so that I could play with them after school. They did not appreciate that. Stupid, they didn't get out. They were still in my bag, and my bag was the one that smelled like musk and garter snake crap, so I don't know why they were upset. But no, that's kind of, I've kind of always loved reptiles ever. I mean, my first memory of really being around reptiles was I was like 4, and I was at a family event, and it was like a family picnic kind of family get together at some barn. I don't even know where it was. There was a barn and a pond, and we were in the barn talking, doing all the food and everything. And it was right around when all the little American toadlets start coming out of the water. So if you go near those bodies of water, you're basically walking through gazillions of baby toads. And I realized that and went and took a whole bunch of Dixie cups or Solo cups and filled them up with toads, and then sat them around me and then like dumped piles of baby toads all over myself and then just played with them. And that was like my first memory of, basically, I guess, inappropriately, a golden shower from toads, but because that's basically what I got is a lot of pee. But
I can hear that.
I think the best part is Erica yelling in the background.
Storytelling abilities.
Yeah, I'm a gifted storyteller and metaphorical person. I guess that's something I'm good at. But and you can hear how much Erica appreciates my storytelling. Yep.
It does, man.
Yeah.
So what's the last book that you just got in?
Actually, she heard me talking about books. This is one thing I love about my wife when I'm doing anything like this. She's always listening, and then she'll just slowly bring me things that I've been talking about. So she brought me the pile of the last books I bought. One of them this is actually books I intend to read, by the way. I actually got ones that aren't just for the heck of it. But the Caulfield Letters. This one just came out from Eco Publishing, so Bob and Sherry Ashley just put this out. But it's called Caulfield's. It's a bunch of his letters and things like that over the years, and it's all put into this book just of his life and stuff. So that's definitely something that everybody should, read and check out like that. I'm excited about it because he was involved in, I remember right, I want to say the Bronx Zoo, one of the major zoos, spacing right now on it, but I want to read it because it's going to be a lot of back into the 1900s and things like that. How the zoos were, how they used to deal with animals and things like that. Just seeing what the world was like that through the letters and things that he wrote to other people. And I think that's pretty cool. Another one that Erica just handed me because we have to do this one is Dave's book. We just got Dave's book. So Erica will read this. Dave, I probably won't. I love you, but I don't really read books. So I might read it. I'll tell him I'll read it. I'll probably start. I promise to probably read half of it. And then stop reading because that's literally every book I've ever had. But that's a compliment. If I get through half of your book, like that's a big deal. Like I actually paid attention enough to get through half of it before I got busy and forgot about it. And then Mark O'Shea did Snakes of the World. I got that book. He also did another one, Lizards of the World. Just a cool reference book. Like it's nice to have. It's the pictures that he did on the Snakes of the World book. They're all like he has life-size pictures. So there's a bunch of tiny little thread snakes and stuff in there. And then the last one, which is another one I'm actually looking at reading, is Russ Gurley redid Lizard Man and Burt Langermorph's all of his articles and put it into a book series. So the Lizard Man already exists, but all of his articles didn't. And so Russ spent all this time putting every article that Burt wrote and was a part of into a book and then relaunched his the Lizard Man book with that. So I bought those just because I think that there's, again, Burt Langermorph he was basically like he's the guy. Like if you want to breed a lizard, period, he's the guy that laid the foundation for you to literally breed any monitor, tegu, agamid, anything in the United States. He was the guy. So I'm really kind of looking forward to having that. And that's his articles are probably something I'll go through and kind of, Erica likes to highlight stuff. I'll put tabs in books of like, hey, this is a species we work with. This is some good information that I want to have for later. I'll put a little tab on it or fold the page in. But it's just a way for us to kind of have like that's what I like about having a lot of books. It's not always that I need to read them, and a lot of them are not. They're not fictional or fun reads. They're nonfiction reptile biology, things like that. But I just like knowing that I have a whole wall out there I can go reference if I need it, and there's always some little tidbit of information in there somewhere that I can use or adapt for something. So I think that's the bigger thing on why I'm a kind of a book nerd. I'm not a book reading nerd, but I'm a book collecting nerd, just because I like knowing that I have a wall of information that I can grab at any point in time. Even to the point of like finding there's some herpetological journals that are online. I've printed out 20 years and 3-inch binders of herp journals. And, there's so much information in there and articles in there. I couldn't even tell you what's in half of those. But if I ever get on hey, I'm really looking for something and I'm digging in, I can start there. I have all these journals I can go through. I can jump on Google Scholar. I start doing that kind of stuff. So it's a bigger thing for me rather than reading the books, to just knowing that I have that information at my fingertips. And a lot of times I trust books a lot more than I trust anything online.
Well, okay, let's talk about that. So, first of all, anybody can write anything online, and it's not necessarily fact-checked or peer-reviewed.
Yep.
And that person may or may not have any kind of credentials. In fact,
most of them don't.
Maybe even no experience working with that species. But maybe they heard someone talking about it who may or may not have known what they were talking about.
Yep.
A lot of people that are the most enthusiastic writers online are people that are brand new to a field because they're all fired up about it. And that's great. But those are the people that should still be listening and learning, not trying to
Absolutely.
other people. And definitely, sure as fuck, not correcting people that have been doing it for a long time.
I've gotten in a lot of arguments about UV lighting, and at some point, I've had people tell me that oh, this bulb is like the sun, but this bulb will kill your animal, and I'm like, that they're literally made the exact same way, and they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. I read a post on Facebook, and I'm like, well, the bulbs you're talking about, I designed and manufactured, so. I'm
the engineer, in fact.
Yeah, so I've been studying UV for 8 years incessantly because that's my little side nerding. Yeah, but it's cool. Tell me what you wrote. Tell me what you read on Facebook.
Right. There are very few people, on the other hand, that go to the lengths to publish a book on something that they're not knowledgeable, that has not been fact-checked, that has not often been peer-reviewed scientifically.
Right.
And then a lot of times that information is checked for validity, if not for, grammatical fluidity through the publishing companies, editors, revisers, all of that jazz. So yes, I trust printed literature much more than
the internet's
Google.
Yeah,
I love how Ryan said Google earlier too, because I was what was it, Friday night? I was a part of a benefit auction, right? And one of the items was a pair of clubtail iguanas. I was like, I've never fucking heard of these things. I'm gonna be the typical fucking noob and look it up on Google. The only thing it says on Google is not much is known about this species. Treat like iguana.
Way wrong.
They're from
not
Mexico.
Even close.
That's not right.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was horrible. And then I started jumping into forums and things like that, and was like, well, the heat gradient on this can vary from I think they said 82 degrees to 115 degrees. And I was like,
it's a big range.
There's not much that you're giving as far as legitimate information. So I started looking into it more, and everyone was. The only thing it says as far as Wikipedia or Google is treat like iguana, and it could go between 10 inches and it could be up to 5 feet long. It's how fucking how stupid do you have to be to
Thank you for literally no help at all.
Say something about any iguana species in the world.
When it's it's small, and when it's adult, it's bigger.
What I tell people now is, even if it's a leopard gecko, I don't care. Find out where it's from. And other thing too, be careful with Wikipedia. Also written by people, not scientists or knowledgeable. Literally, I can go on there and change it. I can say that club-tailed iguanas give birth to unicorns, and it'll stay on there until somebody corrects it. So, like, that's something to be aware of with Wikipedia, just for anybody that doesn't know. It's an open source knowledge base, which also means that people who are telling you how to take care of that club-tailed iguana might be the ones writing on Wikipedia. What I tell people is, I'm like, look, find the natural range. The IUNC Red List, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, is who controls import and export and things like that of endangered species and things like that. So if you go on their list, on their site for the Red List, and you type in the Latin name of the species, it'll usually, almost every species you can think of is on there. And it'll show you the range. Even if it's not an endangered species, it'll show you the range of where they're from and where their range map is. For most, again, not for all, but do your best to find a range map. And then once you find a range map, find a couple cities that are in that range and go to weather.com or whatever and look up that city and look up what yearly rainfall temperatures are, highs and lows in each month, and get an idea of what that looks like. Then look for pictures of the habitat where they come from. And pictures aren't going to do you a ton because it's going to give you a very broad range of what their habitat looks like. But in reality, desert monitors, Australian desert monitors, the Odatria. So let's say Kingorum, tiny little Kingorum. You look at their habitat, it's a dry, barren, horrible desert wasteland with giant rocks. If you build a huge, giant desert wasteland with rocks, they're going to die. Because that's where they live, but it's not the part of the habitat they use. They actually live in tiny little crevices full of humidity that are 30 to 40 degrees cooler than the rock is. And that's why actually a lot of people have a hard time with them in captivity, because they set them up super hot and super dry. They get dehydrated, they get kidney issues, they get gout, and they die. Because everybody I've talked to, I'm like, no, don't set it up kind of looking like a desert, but then treat it like it's tropical and spray it every day and keep it wet and keep it humid, and because that's really the microclimate they come from. But so understanding those kind of things and getting an idea of what does the habitat look like there they come from? What does the rainfall and temperatures look like? What does the vegetation and stuff look like? Go to Google Scholar, see if you can find out what they eat, because there's a lot of studies that are done on the gut contents of animals, trying to understand how they interact with the environment around them and where they sit into that ecosystem. So you can find a lot of stuff like that. Like I said, even that Colotis paper on how they lay eggs. What a weird, totally random paper to find on a genus that nobody really talks about or keeps, but I found a paper on how they lay eggs and how every species picks their lay spot. Hugely beneficial information for us in captivity. No one ever would have even looked, and I promise you'll never find that information in a book or on the website.
I got a question for you since you brought Bert Langerwerf up. Before he passed away, we ordered a pair of Physignathus leisure from him and brought them in. They were just captive-born babies. They lasted a week and died. And we had them basically set up like Cosin sinus. And I just want to know if you've ever worked with that species and how you keep the damn things.
Yeah, actually, I brought in 30 of them from Portugal a couple of years ago. There's a breeder over in Portugal, and he sent them to a buddy in Spain, who sent them to another buddy of mine in Germany, who brought him over to Tinley when he was coming over. And we raised a bunch of them, and I kept a bunch of them, and I never really had any problems with them. We kept them, pretty semi-arid, little, kind of, honestly, to be honest, they were pretty middle of the road for everything. We gave them a basking spot around 100, gave them UV, they were not wet, but not tropical, but we didn't dry them out. It's just kind of middle of the road. We watched, they gave them a big water bowl so that they could crap in it, not drink out of it, just crap in it. And then we made it somebody else's. We have volunteers that come over for the rescue. So when I had those were part of the rescue, so I didn't have to clean the crap tub. So somebody else had to take out the crap tub and clean it. But no, now those actually, they live out in California with some friends of mine. So, but no, I love them. I think that's a species that I really hate that when Bert passed, that's a species that just nearly disappeared. There's still people working with them, and they're coming back. Thai Park has a decent amount of them. There's a couple other people in the Southwest and stuff that have a decent amount in California too. So there's people who are producing them, but not. I had a pair at a pet store in 2006 or 2008, 2009. I worked at a pet store in Milwaukee when I was in college. They had a pair. They were everywhere. You could easily get them just like you could the Chinese water dragons. And Not as much anymore. They're a lot harder to find, but they are still coming in. They are still around. So hopefully they, some more people keep kind of taking on to how awesome those guys are.
Well, could you put us in contact with whoever's breeding them in California? Because we'd love to get a pair.
Yeah, if you guys want a pair, I know some people who have a bunch available right now. I'll hook you up with them.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, not along these lines at all. Who's your bro crush in the hobby?
My bro, ooh, I'm kind of a slut in the hobby, to be totally honest. I bro crush with everybody. Like, no, I mean, I don't even know. I don't know. Let me think. I think I have to say Brent Schultz. I don't think I can say anybody else. Okay. I mean, he's my show little spoon. So, yeah,
he does look good in a dress. I'll say that.
Yeah, I've seen him in someone else's booty shorts. That's very small. That was at your house recently. I've seen him in her shorts, so that was a fun picture. Yeah, he fits in them. It was a side of Brent that only a few get to see, and I took the bullet on that one. You're all welcome.
Thank you. That's funny. Yes, he's a petite little fellow. So
you were sorry, I'm stuck on reptiles because we only got you for a short amount of time. Nephurus laevis, did you ever keep them, and do you have access to them? And how do you?
There's not a species that you can name that I can't get you. Like, I was literally so we were talking about Chihuahua and how there's another species, Munirogekko jalu, and those aren't in the hobby at all. I was talking to somebody about bringing some in from Sweden. So no, if there's a species you want to keep and you can find a picture of it on Google, I can find you a guy somewhere in the world and I can get it here. And that's almost true of anything as long as it's legal to bring into the country. If it's not, I'll tell you how to get it, but it's your problem. I'm not touching it, and it depends on how stretchy your prison wallet is. The Nephurus I worked with. I had for knobtails and stuff. I had Underwoodosaurus milli. I worked mostly with amii for a while. The Levis, I don't think I really had. I actually don't think I ever picked up any of the smooth knobtails. That whole group, I liked them, but they never did it for me. And then I got into the knobtails heavy right at the end of keeping a lot of geckos. I used to keep mostly geckos. And then when my twins were born, having 4 kids under the age of 5 was a little bit rough for also feeding 300 geckos. So I moved a lot of my geckos out. Dan Thomas at Animal House Pets, he took my Odura collection. So a lot of the Odura he went nuts with it. It was pretty cool to see. That was the last thing I let go of was my Australian velvet geckos, because I think I had one of the most diverse collections in the U.S. And that was a huge passion project for me, was those geckos. I really love them. And then I had Chihuahua groups, and I had tons of stuff. I had some stuff that me and 3 other people in the world had in captivity that we were playing with, and just unique, cool little geckos. And I got rid of all of those and put that money into snakes. And then years later now, I kind of mostly work with snakes and monitors. We have some geckos, and they're still my passion. And I lucked out because Erica kind of gets a soft spot for geckos. And at first she was like, I don't know why you keep little geckos. I want crocodiles. And I'm like, well, I'm cool with that too. So we have crocodiles. But every time I'd see, and then she started liking the little geckos. And then I'm like, anytime I find a species, I'm like, God, I really miss having that. That was a really cool. Abenavia and Nunguis is from Madagascar ones I've been looking at lately, because I miss keeping those little guys. And I'm like, oh man, I just found this really neat gecko. What do you think? Oh, you think it's cool? Yeah, we should maybe get some. Oh, you'd be interested? Okay, I guess I'll get them. I mean, that's totally cool because you want them, and it's you for you, so I'll get all of them. Yeah, and then I slowly get geckos back.
I said the wrong gecko. You were talking about the Dune geckos, and I think it's Palmata gecko rangi.
Oh yeah, yep.
Little what is the common? I don't even know the common name, but they're beautiful little tiny
little desert geckos. Yep, the fan webfoots.
Yes, that's what they are.
Yep. So Rengia, I have, I believe, just their back feet are webbed, or their front feet, and then Vanzolini look almost exactly the same, but both sets of feet are webbed. It's one way or the other. But there's 2 species that are super close together, and one of them has 4 webbed feet and one has 2, but otherwise they look identical.
Is anybody breeding them? I've only ever seen one in my life.
Yep. Oh no, I can find those. Talk to Joe Hupp might be a good one to connect with on those. Really, for almost any gecko species, especially a little oddball ones, Joe Hupp's a good guy to start with. He keeps a little HUPP. Joe Hupp. He's out of St. Louis. He keeps almost every gecko species you have ever or never heard of. A lot of really out there weird stuff too, which is cool. And then I'm trying to think of for Pachydaculus, Wally Kern. I don't think he has those now, but he has worked with a lot of those little Pachydaculus and things like that, and those African geckos in the past. So if he doesn't have them now, he'd be another person who at least could give you good information and get you on a good path to finding somebody who has them. The Pachydaculus aren't too hard to find, and the Rangii, I think they're. I don't know if they changed genuses like 15 times. Palmetto gecko, and then they're Pachydaculus, and then they're something else again, and then the whole Pachydaculus genus is like 250 geckos from Africa that look from things like Rangii all the way up to things that look like the little crocodile bibrons geckos that you see at pet stores. Like, there's a huge range of animals that look nothing alike and come from totally different habitats, and they're all in the same genus. That's a genus that needs some love and attention to separate out a little bit, because it's a little bit of a hodgepodge. But I think that one hasn't really been taken on as a project, because it's not 10 species, it's hundreds. So that would be a big project. But yeah, no, it's a cool genus. There's a lot of really unique little geckos in there. A lot of desert dwelling, cool African geckos.
Well, it just seems like the smaller stuff, with the exception of stuff coming out of Madagascar, people aren't really working with the little tiny geckos, It
used to be. There used to be a lot more people breeding that stuff, and I think the trends in the hobby have changed that of what's the popular thing to keep, what's the easier thing to sell. I'll be honest, the best thing I ever did in the hobby for myself, in my hobby, is my interaction keeping these animals is I got overwhelmed when the twins were born with the geckos, and I loved it, but it became work and it was stressful, and I was running out of time, and I'd miss an animal that was maybe a little sick or something, and it'd pass away because I didn't catch it, and it just really started to weigh on me, and I almost got out of it just because I was like, I just can't do this anymore. It's work. It's not fun. It's not fun anymore. So I sat down one night and I was thinking about it. And I'm like, you know what would I keep? Because I was trying to think of what I would get rid of. And instead of trying to think of what I could get rid of, what was worth more, what bred more, I don't want to get rid of something that produces a lot of babies and I can sell really easy, because that's, income for buying other animals. But then I stopped myself and I was like, you know what? Then I'm keeping stuff that I'm still doing the same thing, and I'm not keeping things that make me happy. I'm keeping things that make me money, which is not what I want anyway. And honestly, like I said, I give away most crap, so I don't really make anything anyway. If you want to keep reptiles, you just need to have a lot of disposable income and expect to never make anything back. And that's how I kind of actually started looking at it was, okay, if everything I had in my house, every baby I hatched was worth nothing, I just gave them away, what would I keep just because I love working with it, because I really enjoy those animals, because I can sit down and handle one of those things and just totally nerd out the whole time? What are those animals? And that's what I did. I cleaned out everything that wasn't on that list, and I kept and started focusing on just those animals. And that's what I have now. That's what me and Erica have, a collection of stuff that we have started putting into bigger display type cages, because all we do is sit around and stare at them and just watch them and enjoy them. And if they breed, awesome. Getting Savu pythons, that's something I've worked on for 11, 12 years. I mean, that was one of the first animals I ever dreamt about getting eggs from. And of course, I picked one of the hardest things to breed in captivity, but because that's how I roll. I'm like, what's going to be impossible and painful and horrible and heartbreaking? I'm going to do that. But that made it worth it. It's awesome. But now every single animal I have, every interaction with it is interesting and fun, and it's exciting, and watching them move around is fun, and seeing them, it's different. It's different. And I appreciate racks, and I will never give anybody crap about racks. It's a spacing thing. We cut down the number of animals we had to make space to go into bigger caging and space them out more. And it wasn't because racks are bad and animals need more space. To an extent, some people, that's a thing. I've seen a snake that's this big in a tub this big, obviously not okay. Most people don't do that, and I know that. And we still have racks. So again, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing on racks, because they absolutely are beneficial and have their place. But for us, it was more us. It was more, I didn't like staring at tubs. I didn't feel like I was interacting with my animals as much. I didn't get to appreciate them, even though we built out their tubs just like I would the caging. I mulch and hides and all this stuff in there, but I didn't get to interact with them as much and see them and observe them, and it just wasn't as fun. So that's what we did. We turned here. So we turned everything into big open cages.
Wow.
Well, that's that side, but so that's all the. Okay, hold on. There we go. That's all the monitor cages. That's all the snakes. So that's that half of my office, I guess. But no, that made it easier. So I can sit here and I can just watch them tool around. I can see what they're doing. I can watch them in their habitat. I can observe, and you catch things that you wouldn't otherwise. Like I know some of my snakes. I know how they act when they're hungry now. And I have a female Timor python. The most nightmarish feeder on the planet. She only eats when she wants to. And it's super hard to tell when she wants to. But because she's in a 6-foot cage and I can observe her and we can watch her, now we have an idea of, okay, she's out cruising. She's looking for food. She's hunting. Go follow a rat really quick. We have about 2 hours to feed her before she decides, screw it, I'm not going to eat. So now we know that, and we've gotten her to eat better. And getting her to eat better is getting her heavier. And now I'm getting a lot closer to being able to cycle her this fall, which I wouldn't be able to in the past. So I'm going to get closer to being able to breed her. And if she was still in a rack, I would, even a nice, big, huge, like the vision racks are like almost 3 foot wide, giant boa tubs. She'd have plenty of space, but I still wouldn't see that stuff. And I wouldn't be able to get that interaction and get that knowledge from observation. And I feel like that's something that we end up missing when we try and focus on having as much as we can in the space that we have, instead of taking this approach where I have as much as I possibly can fit. Like you saw, it's ceiling to floor on every wall. But we changed on what we were keeping and why and how we set it up so that we could observe them more and react with them differently. And again, this is not a judgment thing. I feel weird talking about this because I feel like anytime you do, somebody takes it as like, a hit. And like there's racks in your background and, oh, you did bastard keeper, you're horrible. Like absolutely not. Like we use racks for quarantine. We have racks in the rescue because it's safer for the animals. They are more like secluded so that they can heal. We have animals that need rest and relaxation. They need to be able to de-stress and have a good immune system to come back and eat and all that stuff. All those things. Like there's definitely positives to racks. And I grow up babies in racks because there's less threats. There's less movement. They don't hide. They're not stressed out. But these animals now, that the adults that we've worked with so long and we have, and they're ready and they're adapted to captivity, now they do great in a cage like that, and now we enjoy them too. So we just kind of changed the way we were thinking, and that's something that is going to continue with us. Like this still isn't nearly what I want. At some point, I want a building with zoo enclosures. Like I'm going to build rooms for every single thing that I can walk into and interact with them. And I'm sure at that point I'll still be like, I can do better than this. I'm just going to build individual greenhouses for every animal. Like and that's seriously just for me. That's not even like they're going to do great and they're going to love it, but I'm going to love it. It's just, I love building habitats. I love watching them interact with it and seeing the different like natural behaviors and how they interact with their environments and things like that, and switching out logs and watching them explore it and giving them that mental stimulation and like that kind of stuff excites me now. And I think that's part of just you in it long enough where the newest, coolest thing, I've kind of seen almost all of it. Like every once in a while, there's a cool species of lizard or gecko that pops up out of nowhere that somebody picked up in Africa and nobody knows what it is, and it ends up on Triple L's table or whatever. Like that's cool. I love that kind of stuff, but there's not too much it shows anymore that really makes me go crazy. Like, oh my God, I haven't seen that, because I travel to a lot of shows. I see a lot of stuff. And now I kind of got to a point where I just want to, and I want to have my experience with the individual animals be different rather than just a collection of all these things I like. Now I'm interacting with them in a different way. I'm learning about them. I'm observing them. I'm tweaking their habitats, seeing how they're different ways that they might nest, different ways that they might burrow. I've got species that are supposed to be tree monitors that aren't at all. They burrow and they're fossorial and they dig all the time, and people wouldn't know that. And most people that get them set them up like tree monitors with a super hot basking spot and kill them. So it's just, you learn all this different stuff, and it's a totally different way of taking a look at your animals and enjoying them. So
right.
It's just,
I want to kind of go back to one of the things you said about what's popular. So as content creators, obviously we gotta kind of play into that a little bit, right? Which fucking sucks, but it is what it is. Like, we're trying to bring more people into the hobby. We're trying to get that view. We're trying to get that click, whatever, that watch time. What do you think as a content creator? What's a better, or what would be like an alternative way to bring in more species and try to bring popularity to a wider range of stuff? Because it seems like we go through, you got like your big 5 snakes, right? Everyone wants the big 5, wants to play with those. Everyone's into ball pythons. You're getting a lot more Morelia, chondros, things like that. But you have all these species and subspecies that never get a look at. And there's a few that are coming out now, but as someone that just does it for the love of animals, what would you give as advice to like the big name content creators and us smaller ones that are trying to find a way to make the animals we love more popular?
So to ask you, what is the number one thing that people complain about reptile shows? All the hobbyists bitch all the time. Oh, I'm not going to go to that show. It's all ball pythons and crested geckos. Yeah. Everybody feels like that. So while they're the popular thing, doing a show on like Dave is coming down to my place this next week. We're going fishing with a bunch of people, and he's going to do some shots, some video here. I don't have anything really. I have a pet rosy boa, and I think there's ball pythons in the rescue, but most of the stuff we have isn't things you're going to find randomly at a store or even a specialty pet shop. We like to keep weird, obscure crap. But that's what everybody wants to see. So there is some value there. And the other part of it too is when it comes to content, it's 100% about your ability to be excited about it. And that's the number one thing that I've been able to do myself. I don't have any other thing. Like, I'm a nerd for reptiles to extent of like almost probably institutionalization. I should be institutionalized, kind of like I should probably know other things, like my kids' birthdays. That's why it's literally tattooed like right here, so I can check when I'm filling out paperwork. And I actually literally have filled out paperwork at a hospital for my daughters and been like, and wrote down their birthday. But now that that's out there in the world, so they can see that when they're older. Love you, girls. No, but like be excited. Just bring passion and energy to it, and you can get anybody to be excited about literally anything as long as you're passionate and excited about it. And when it comes to stuff like that too, if you do something that's a less common species, or roll it in. If you're going to somebody's house who does ball pythons, show them all the cool new morphs. Almost everybody has something else that they work with, or they have a drawer that has a something else in it. And usually sometimes it's something common, like it's a corn snake morph or it's other morph stuff. But once in a while you get somebody who's got like, hey, that drawer has a Timor python, or, you know, a weird Trans-Pecos rat snakes that don't exist. You never see them anymore. Like that kind of stuff. Like all those things that people don't see anymore. So add that in. Like, oh, and then they also really enjoy this. Let's talk about that for a minute and pick on that. And just mix it up. People they want to hear and see about the stuff that everybody has because it's the thing everybody has. But when you open their eyes to something new, you'll get just as much of a view out of that and just as much attention out of that. You just got to make sure to mix it up and bring that same passion to it. And I can get anybody excited. I could get you excited to buy a rock. As long as I'm super passionate, excited, and I'm telling you how amazing this rock is, give me 5 minutes, you'll buy it. Like, you'll be excited about this rock too, and then you'll be telling everybody about how cool this rock is, and then you'll meet somebody who actually knows rocks, and they'll be like, that's gravel from his driveway, and you're an idiot. But like, it's that passion. That's what it is. That's what it's all about when it comes to this stuff. It's just being passionate, being excited, and putting that information in front of people. And the other thing too is, as content creators, I was doing Snake Road with Dave a couple weeks ago, and we were staying at this cabin, and he was talking about content and like all the different things he's working on and videos that do well and don't do well, and comparing himself to like what other people are doing. And I'm like, dude, here's the thing. At the end of the day, do you want to be like those other people? And he's like, no, I don't want. I like what I do. And I'm like, then why are you comparing yourself to him? Why are you trying to figure out who's doing the stuff that's getting the most clicks if you're not going to do that stuff? If you're going to do that stuff and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get a view, be that guy. But if you're not, then just keep doing what you're passionate about, keep doing what you're excited about, and people will continue to follow you. And Dave's channel, he started with like 2,000 subscribers when I started first working with sponsoring the channel, and I've known Dave for a long time. But I remember when he started that up, we talked the whole time, and he's like, when Zilla started sponsoring me, he had 2,000 followers. He's broke 100,000 after 4 years. Like, and that he hasn't he just keeps trucking along and doing what he does. And I keep telling him, just keep doing what you're doing. You're not going to hit 2 million subscribers tomorrow, but the people you're getting are people who actually care. They're not popping up, watching a video and never coming back. They're people who are watching your videos, who are giving you better lengths and view times, who are making your analytics look better, and they care about what you're doing, and your comments are all like cool. They're not just people arguing about stupid crap or fighting about dumb crap. It's actual good content. Right. And that's like, here, I'll put this out to you guys. This is something I put out to him, and he won't do it because it's not something that would probably get a ton of views, but I feel like it's important. Some YouTuber, one of you content people, anybody, literally anyone, history of herpeticulture is dying around us with all of these older herpers. That Don Hamper passing was one of the biggest blows to modern herpeticulture, and most people don't even know who that is. And it kills me that nobody sat down with him for an hour or 2 hours and just picked his brain and just learned all the crazy stuff that they've learned. He bred almost everything you've ever seen, and no one even knows who he is. And there's guys like that around the country in every state that are these founders of our hobby and who literally are the reason that what we do exists, and no one knows who they are, and except the real crazy herp nerds, and their stories and their knowledge is being lost because they're getting old and passing away. And somebody needs to do like it doesn't have to be your whole channel, but like as you travel, make a video, go interview one of those guys for like a 2-hour video, even if it's 3 hours and it's annoyingly long. Who cares? Just literally do it just so that you can put that moment into an archive of knowledge for the rest of the hobby to have. And that's one thing that I'd love to see people look at content more of, instead of how can we get the most views and who's going to get the most clicks and how am I going to be the next person? How can you develop and create a line of content that grows the world around you? Because I'll be honest, and I'm not ripping on anybody that does content, I can find a video on ball python breeders in 8 nanoseconds, and I can find 800,000 more videos of ball pythons at any moment. If I want to find a video on somebody who's had success breeding Trans-Pecos, maybe it'll happen. Probably not. If I want to find a video about like how did the hobby start, what is the difference between like when these guys were literally getting on planes and just flying to Africa and bagging crap up and stick it in their luggage and coming back. Like, can you freaking imagine how man, I really want this thing I saw in a picture. Oh, it's $100 for a flight to Africa round trip. I guess I'll just go get it. Like, right. How awesome is that? Like, I want to hear those stories from those guys and know what it was like and understand. A lot of people complain about the hobby and being attacked, but understand how it's grown, where it's changed, what it's like now. The amazing opportunities that we're given right now, the tanks, the husbandry equipment, the racks, the systems, this stuff never existed. They put stuff in a glass box that had a metal frame and weighed 2 tons and the bottom was slate because it was a fish tank from 1965. And they threw a screen on it with duct tape and put a thing in it and tried to keep it alive. Like, now I have entire lighting systems that are controlled from my phone. Like, it's different. And I think in order to appreciate what we have and where our hobby could be going and what we're losing, is you have to understand how far it's come and what it really looks like too. And the fact that this hobby, as it exists, herpeticulture today, is seriously maybe 20 years old. Maybe.
But we got to let you know that is actually one of the major goals of our channel. But there's 2 problems with that. One is that a lot of these old guys that like to sit around and talk, they got to have a beer in front of them and they can't have a camera. They will not talk on camera. They're very difficult. And 2, the other guys are just so crazy that they'll say, sure, let's do it. And then you call them up in there. Their mother died. Their brother died. They got a flat tire, whatever. What is it King Smith tells us? His internet goes out every time we're scheduled to interview him. And he's scheduled 3 or 4 times. And
but
this guy,
I will say, we've gotten a lot of amazing interviews from some of these really cool guys. We need to make a playlist just of these old timers that are, oh my gosh, so crazy.
Well, and most of the time, like, shows, just grab them at a show and just be like, dude, I'll buy you a beer. I just want to sit down and chat and record it. We just want to hear your story. Right. And a lot of those guys like to talk. You just got to pin them down. And if you ever need help, just let me know and I'll threaten them and it'll be fine.
All right.
There we go. Be like, you go sit down with them or I will come to your damn house.
Well, we actually got to go visit Stu Tennyson. I don't know if you know who that is. He's
Yep.
been around forever. And he just recently got hurt, and it was almost serious. And after 20 years of knowing Barney Tomberlin,
it was serious. We thought it was going to be. We were like, no matter what, thank God we at least have him on camera. But I mean, Laszlo was one we never got to interview.
Well, and we just got Barney Tomberlin to agree after 20 years of talking to him. And now I've been on call so much, we can't zip over to Arizona.
But we're going to do it.
Yeah.
We are going to do it.
But no, that's the thing. Like, even as you hit shows and stuff, and there's always, every show has one old dude walking around that nobody pays attention to or knows. And all of us are like, holy crap, do you know who that is? Like, you don't, it's just some dude walking around with like, he has a corn snake he thinks is cool that he bought, and nobody knows that that guy's the reason half the crap at this show exists.
Right.
Like, that's those, and I totally get what a lot of those guys are real quiet, or they're not always ready to talk. But even if it's not a video interview, even if you're like, hey, can I just hit this recorder and just interview you for a couple hours, just sit here and shoot the shit. Like, I'll buy you a beer, you say whatever you want. If you're crazy, I don't care. Record it, you can go edit it later, whatever. But just it's just that even the attempt, and again, I love that you guys are doing that, and I hope more people take after you and keep doing that stuff, because even if it is a drunken rant from, like I said, like Dave Barker's drunken pizza-filled rant at 2 a.m, like, best night of my life, sitting there just listening to the old stories of how things were and his experiences, and just so amazing just to hear that kind of stuff and appreciate what that means to the history of this industry and this hobby. And it's crazy because I'm not a history nerd at all. Like, I don't do history. I can't tell you what any of the presidents were. I think, like, maybe not even the first one, because I just never cared. And my wife's a big history nerd, so she gives me crap all the time, because I'm like, the War of 1812. What was that, like 1935? So like, I get, I don't really do history, but the herp history, man, there's just something about it, just knowing what those guys have done, what the past looked like. Josh Berger, is it Josh Berger? Joshua Berger did a book, The Dragon, what is it called? Oh, now you're not listening to me. Dragon Traders, I think. It's a 1-inch thick book that's the history of herpeticulture. And if you don't have it on your shelf, you're missing out. Every single person, whether you like books or not, if you're into reptiles and herpeticulture, you should have that. Because hold on, here we go. Yeah, it's a big book.
She was listening.
I know. Well, because I said, "Oh, you're not even listening now," and then she looked. But yeah, awesome book.
Here's a guy that I've been trying to find for 10 years that is just disappeared off the market, and we know he doesn't do reptiles anymore, and that's Hank Molt. Do you happen to have contact with him?
I do know some people who can get a hold of Hank Molt. Yes.
Just ask if you would please ask them if he would ever consider sitting down to do an interview. Another guy on is Mike Van Nostrand. We're trying to get a hold of him, and she's actually talked to him, and he's like, people hate me in the hobby, and my point is a lot of these animals that are in the hobby are because of him and what he brought in. And I want, even if he's willing to just sit down and talk about it, not live or anything, we're trying to get all these people. So if you have people that know people,
I'll talk to Mike's grandson and and Hank's ex-girlfriend.
Nice.
There we go.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
No problem.
This has been one of the best we've had in quite a while. You're so amazing.
Oh, you just say that. Just say that.
Well, you're so handsome. I mean, I'm just enamored by you. Yes, there we go. Pet your beard.
A little bit of a side look and a beard rub. Hey there.
No, really. We just have tons of respect for you because you have accomplished so much. I mean, you're still a young man, and wow, you're just an amazing guy.
Well, I love what I do. I love all the people in the hobby. It's funny. I hear so much about Facebook and the drama. I don't see any of it because I slowly unfollow people that I don't want to hear from. And I create my own Facebook experience by only liking things that I actually want to see and not interacting with things I don't want to see. And then slowly the algorithm just takes everything out. And I can scroll Facebook for 4 hours and not see drama. And I don't know anybody else that can do that because I don't partake in it. Right. You know, and it's just an awesome community of people. Even the new people that are getting in that are not putting UV on their bearded dragon, I love them too. And I appreciate that. And I think that all of my existence in life is to help those people and to get everybody to be as stupidly nerdy about reptiles as I am. And that's all I want to do.
And we all started somewhere. And
exactly.
We all got advice from somebody who knew better than we did. And,
still do.
Yeah.
If any herper that wants to talk to some young person and talk down to them, if you can do that without showing me the freezer of animals that you've left in your path as you learned, then please do. But that's right. I'm trying not to swear. I know you can, but I'm trying to be like good. But whatever. That's bullshit. Like all of us learned the hard way. My first leopard gecko was my first exotic animal. I kept it on sand. It had no toes by the time she died. Like, granted, she lived to be like 22 because she was a wild caught leopard gecko, rarest morph in the world. It was had nothing. So like, but like that. I started out with horrible knowledge. I wasn't born like this. Like it's experiences and my knowledge and my growing. And if you find people who are excited and you beat that out of them, then one, they stop listening to you and that animal's dead. Everything you did was worthless because you scared them out of asking for help. And that animal's going to die and it's your fault, not theirs. And so you can't force people to do what you think is right. You just need to be able to, I tell everybody, look, I don't tell you how to keep your animals. And I'm never going to knock rack people. I'm never going to say, dude, you keep all your stuff in racks. You're crap. It should look like this. You're a piece of crap. You don't care about it. No, because that's not true. And it works for you and it works for the animals and they're healthy. And I do things different. But all I can do is I'm going to do the best that I can and inspire other people to want to do that too. And at some point they may, and if they don't, and they're happy with the way they do their thing, that's fine. Now, if it's killing animals and their happiness is dog fighting or something, like they're not okay with that. Like, but doing something different than me doesn't mean you're wrong. Like right. I incubate eggs differently than everybody, but if we all have 100% hatch rate, then who cares how you do it? Right. Exactly. That's what it's about. It's all about just enjoying the animals. And I don't want you to do it the way I do it. I want you to enjoy them the way I enjoy them. And however you do that and get to that point, that's all I care about.
Well, real quick, I got a Zilla question.
Yeah.
When are you coming up with a paludarium?
Well, so well, this might be the good time to do this.
Yeah,
I haven't told anybody really yet, and I haven't done it, I don't think, live on anything yet.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm getting a look. Yeah, it's fine. No, okay, so
it's okay. We don't want any secrets. I just want to know if it's possible in the future.
Okay. I have a lot of things going on outside of. I'm no longer the brand manager of Zilla, so I haven't told anybody that. But as of this year, on January 1st, I actually left Zilla. Sort of. I stepped down as brand manager, and they have someone else in that position now. And I am still consulting, and I have a contract with Zilla. I still consult with them. They're doing some great stuff, and I'm excited for the things that they're working on and what they're doing. And it's still a part of the team, but I stepped away, and we have some other stuff going on. I'm being told I can't announce what's going on now, but within the next week, me and Erica both are going to be launching a new endeavor, and everybody will get to see it.
Tell her to message me, and we will set.
Erica said that if you message her, she will set something up to let you guys in on everything, and we'll probably do some big announcements. So we're going to change the hobby a little bit, like a lot actually. We're working on some stuff that's going to be. You're not going to have ever seen anything like this before, and it's going to change the hobby. And I can't say any more than that because I'm being threatened with a face that's scarier than you guys.
Okay, so another question to get away from that. How much experience do you have with venomous? I mean, do you work with venomous? Do you
Yep.
keep that? So
I actually used to keep venomous. I can't keep them in Illinois. I moved in Wisconsin, the land of the free, where everything's amazing. I went from there to basically the worst place on the planet. I love all my people from Illinois, but the state sucks and all the laws are crap. And I want to go back to freedom. But I'll live here forever because I have to. So anyway, the people who are involved in the reptile laws and stuff are actually awesome people, and I really appreciate them. But no, I don't have the hours to get the licensing I need. I do, but not officially. So I need to actually go through and officially do the hours to get the licensing I need. And then even then, the city we are in currently, I can't keep venomous. So all of my hots are either on display at local zoos through loan, or they're at friends' houses. Oh, wow. But I never really had too much. Like right now, I've got white speckled rattlesnake, and that's on display at a zoo. And then I've got some copperheads and things like that. But no, I never got too huge into venomous. I got a Ruber at a zoo, but
have you ever bred? That was my question.
No, I never bred the venomous. I kept them. I just kept like a one-offs of each, just things that I appreciated and liked. And even for venomous, it's not something that like I've ever really wanted to breed. I do want to breed the white specks and a couple other species, but more so the white specks I don't want to breed because I want to breed them and put them out there. I want to breed them because I want to wait until other people that I know are poaching them out of their native range post adults for sale for like $2,000, and then that's when I'm going to post babies for $50, and I'm going to destroy the market so that they stop poaching them.
Please let us know the day that happens. I want some.
That's what I plan on breeding those for, is to destroy the poaching market, not because I care about the financial aspect or breeding them at all. It's literally just to stop poaching.
Well, they're beautiful animals.
Oh yeah, and I'm totally cool being that ass that everyone hates. So, like,
well, we love that ass.
Yeah. Well, it looks a lot better now.
Yeah. All right, awesome. I've already messaged Erica. Mad love and respect to both of you guys. I can't wait to actually meet this lady.
I know she's coming with me to most of the big shows. So hopefully the next Arlington, or we'll be at Daytona. We'll be at Schaumburg in a month. Oh my God, it's coming up fast. Yeah, but
I was gonna say that's in like 2 weeks or something.
No, it's not 2 weeks. Don't tell me that crap. I can't handle the heart attack. It's like 3 or 4. Give me a little bit of time.
I don't know.
It's 3. It's 3 weeks away. Yeah, it's 3 weeks from now.
Well, I want to try to schedule our next interview with her and you in the fall.
Yeah.
To see how your summer went and what else, how else we can pick your brain. So
Oh, for sure.
Please.
Yeah, no, guys, honestly, send. Oh yeah, from now on, send her messages. She puts things in calendars, and then you won't have to remind me the day before. Yeah. I mean, I totally remembered. I couldn't even find where we had a conversation to be like.
We talked about it on the Zoom.
Yeah, on Chris's Zoom.
Yeah, that's probably why. Because I wrote it down. I wrote it down, and then the girls are e-learning, so they've took over my desk, and all of my Post-it notes are gone, and I'm freaking out that I'm missing stuff. Yours may have been one of the Post-it notes that disappeared or turned into a kitty.
That's okay. We got you. We held you captive for 2 hours. And so thank you to your family for leasing you out to us.
They're used to it. They don't worry, you'll get a bill in the mail. It's cool.
Gotcha. All right, thank you to everybody in the chat. We completely ignored all of you, but we love you.
I'm going to hit you up on Facebook later, Ryan, to get that book you were talking about, because I tried to look it up while you were talking about it, and it's taking me to a bunch of like romantic fiction stuff. It's not exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, definitely shoot me a message or something. I'll get you on track with any books you guys have questions on. Like I said, I nerd out over books, and then I put them on a shelf, and then Erica reads them and tells me about them. So
the encyclopedic wife.
Yeah. Oh no, she's the brains. Like it's kind of messed up. I'm the pretty face, which is really screwed up because she's way hotter than anybody I know. Like, so she's slumming it with the face thing, but like her knowledge makes me look stupid. But she'll never know it unless you get her talking, because she's so humble and she doesn't let anybody know the knowledge she has unless you get her talking. And all of a sudden you're just like, holy crap, you know more than literally any of us sitting at this table. But otherwise you'll never know. She's just. People just think she's just the little lady in the background, but her knowledge is ridiculous. She's literally brought dead animals back to life in our house before.
Oh.
Like I poked its eyeball, dead for 4 hours, no heartbeat, no breathing, no movement, dead, and brought it back to life. So she's crazy. She's a necromancing, reptile-loving,
Whoa.
CVT, world-conquering woman.
Oh, that's quite a title.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's the short list. So definitely, like, yeah, I'm not the cool one of this couple for sure.
Well, I'm good at cooking tacos.
Hey, that gets you. That would get you almost as far. I can appreciate that.
All right, everybody. We love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Ryan, John, Erica, my lover here.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. We're happy to do this whenever. Like, this is our chance to just talk, nerd out, and empty a little bit of crap out of my brain. So now I can go pick up my kids and remember their names.
Yay. All right. Love everybody. Be safe. Talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.